Hey everyone, welcome back to another Facerocker Podcast. This is episode number 45. You're probably wondering why it's Benji sitting here. I have an answer for you. Everyone else is out working busily on important things. Matt is shooting and prepping the action for VGHS Season 3 right now, actually, so he's got a lot of stuff on his plate. Freddie is in Vegas with Dez. They're at the NAB Expo at the moment, so right now I'm doing the introduction. But we do have a show for you today, which is pretty rad. We have the VGHS writing team in today, which is Matt Arnold, Will Campos, and Jake Andrews. Today we go over anything and everything from the beginning to end, the entire process of writing Season 3 of VGHS, and we even got a couple spoilers there for everybody if you're wanting to know a couple things before the actual show's out. Just a couple quick hits I want to go over. Please, guys, subscribe to us on iTunes. That's the best metric we have to see how we're doing and to talk to people to get us the best deals so we can keep making great content and giving you guys stuff day in and day out, every week, every month, every year. So check that out. Also, if you have more free time on your hands, go and subscribe to The Future on iTunes. That's our other podcast with Benji and Logan Olson. Pretty rad guys that they go all over the place with their podcast. Pretty awesome stuff. They're a couple futurists that, I mean, I was lucky enough to be on a show, and it was pretty awesome. It was a good time. So make sure you go and check them out. But in the meantime, today's episode, this is number 45. We've got the VGHS writing team, so sit back, relax, and hopefully you enjoy the show. Screw it. Alex just set that stuff up. Stop touching.
I'm not changing. I'm just saying. It's like I always go up one tooth.
Does Alex fucking fuck with the camera when he's on set? Does he just like, oh, you know, I always want to play around with this when Matt's directing something?
Every single time I see it, I'm like, okay, I just want to go up one tooth on this thing, and then that one tooth, even though it looks like this,
is like
it
10
comes up
feet.
to like here.
Yeah,
it's like there needs to be half. Like, anyways, I can't.
You just need to be better at it. That's what that sounds like.
I need to be half an inch taller for this thing.
Well, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
All
right, well, we're here back again for Facerocker Podcast. As you can see, Freddie is not here. Dez is not here. They are in Vegas for NAB at the moment.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, they're doing something.
I guess they're just hanging out. Yeah, they brought Ben along. There's obviously no work happening.
There's nothing happening.
But we have...
No, there is work happening, but Ben's doing all of it. That's
there we go.
That's how it goes around here.
Now we're talking. But actually, our guests today, we have Matt Arnold, Jake Andrews, and Will Campos.
Hello.
These are
Benji.
You guys are the writing team.
Yeah.
VGHS Season 3.
Yeah.
So I figured we'd bring you guys in here. It's your day off. You've been working. It's almost the end of the shoot, kind of, getting there.
2 more weeks.
Yeah, so I figured I'd bring you in, ask you guys how it's going. First and foremost, I know last year you guys had Brian in on the team, and he was busy getting ready for his big move, to England, so you brought in Jake Andrews this year.
Well, yeah, we had, Brian had his movie and Fascinating Films to finish up.
This crippling cocaine addiction.
I actually wish he was here today. I mean, he still wrote a ton, and a lot of the, we had worked on the story for so long before we started actually doing the script, and he was doing all that. Just stuff had to ramp up. So with that hole in our hearts, we had to fill it. Jake, I don't know if he filled it, but he
Brian was like peanut butter and Jake's like Nutella. That's, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I like Nutella.
It's a different kind of taste.
So do I.
But
when Jake and Brian were both in the room, you had that peanut butter Nutella taste going on that was just like out of this world. But
But no, it was great. We needed to now after all those snide remarks, I'll come and compliment Jake because we were really just looking for a writing assistant because Brian was still involved enough, and especially with like the law scenes and a lot of other stuff that Will and I were like, we could probably do this. But there's just a lot of other aspects of the writing that just take time, like setting out drafts and just emails and a bunch of other shit. And we're both terrible note takers and whatnot. So we really were like, we just needed like a writing assistant would probably help, go get us coffee and whatnot. And we asked Jake, and pretty quickly it was like he was gonna be more than just a writer assistant, and he was given a bunch of good ideas and added a lot to the script, and especially in episode 4, which I don't want to say anything about because it'll spoil it, but he came up with like pretty much entirely like one of the best moments.
Yeah,
of
one of the best moments, which we can talk about after the episode airs. But one of the ideas in that is like it's a crucial moment. What's cool about working with Jake was that it's like we were watching your shit when we were writing season 1. Yeah. Like I remember the first time I saw a Ruby Dog video was we were in the writer's room in season 1.
I had no clue.
When we were working on VGHS season 1, and Freddie came in and was like, "You guys got to fucking check out Ruby Dog. These guys are great." And then it was like the Mentos commercial and Rainy Day Blues, and we were like, "This is hilarious." And then lo and behold, like 3 years later, we were working with you. It was really cool.
Yeah, because you're Jake. If you don't know this already, Jake, you've been a member of Ruby Dog Movies for years, so you're not new to the writing game. You've been writing shorts and sketches for years. So was it a little different? Have you done like a long form series before, or how did that work for you?
Not really. I mean, in college, I was like like screenwriting, like writing features, and then like coming to this, like this is like television writing, and I wasn't like accustomed to that.
It's web series writing.
I know, but it's like kind of the structure of like like a.
It's weird. It was figuring out how to write the show from day one was like a weird beast. But then it was like definitely like for seasons 1 and 2, like that 3-person dynamic was really crucial to like getting the show written. And so it was having Jake swing in and kind of like like be that third person in the room was great. I remember it was also hugely helpful when because we started writing while Matt was super deep in post production on season 2 back when they were working like 9,000 hours a day.
We had the hammock,
frantically pushing.
That was actually like the main reason we even. That's right.
That was one of the big reasons.
Because I was like, because we did a lot of outlining, and then post production ramped up for like those last month or so, and I was like, Will, we can't stop working on those stories, but I'm literally not gonna be able to help very much. So we need somebody. I don't even think I've talked. I was just like, if I don't put somebody in that room, I know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be Will in that room by himself. Literally probably contemplating suicide.
Just having a mental breakdown.
For like a month and a half.
I remember I described it to you because Pacific Rim had come out, and I was like, Matt, the show is like a Jaeger. I can't handle the neural load by myself. I need a drift-compatible pilot in the room. So, Jake early on, it was funny because I remember like the first couple writers meetings, I was just like, so here's like our process, and then it was literally just like, there was like 2 months of me just sitting on the floor staring at the ceiling while Jake would just like kind of watch me, and then I'd be like, I would start a thought, and then stop for like 3 minutes and then finish it. I'd be like, it's like Brian needs to, and then I just do that for like 3 minutes straight, and then I just finish and then Jake was just, I don't know how you put up with it, but it was
it was definitely a strange 2 months.
Yeah. It was a lot of sitting in silence and just like drinking Perrier.
Well, it was just different. It was just the first time I felt like I mean, because when we did the three when we did seasons 1 and 2, like it's very much, there's never really any thought of like who's directing or showrunning or anything. It's like just the three of us wrote it, like regardless. And it's the first time like since I wasn't in the room for like a month and a half, it'd be like, I just felt always so weird when I walk in and then you guys would pitch me something. I just literally had to not be part of the process or like in the trenches and just be like,
that's a bad idea.
No. It was just really uncomfortable like every time. I mean, then we ended up writing for like 5 months after that, so it didn't really matter. But it was like a weird. It was definitely like a totally different experience.
It's a very Sisyphus kind of thing. Like it'd be like Jake and I push the boulder up the hill. I'd be like, okay, Matt's gonna like it this time. It's gonna work. And it's just like you just with one little, and very astute. Like it was never a bad note, but just like with one little question, you just poke the boulder and it would go, and it just roll back to the bottom of the hill. And I'm just like, and I was really worried because I was like, and Jake at the beginning was like, I feel like there was like this implicit, like Jake's like, Will wrote the show. He must know what he's doing. Like he must know what the fuck's going on. And I'm like, I gotta like keep it cool in front of the assistant and like act like I know how to write the show, and then you'd just be like, well, it's like,
well, I definitely felt that way when we came in, and then we're gonna let Jake, because I want to hear what Jake actually thought about all this, if he'll be honest or not. But it was definitely a different. Again, we all three of us like kind of started like not really knowing. I mean, I felt like I think I had a little bit of insecurity in that like I wasn't in like the writing school or like had done anything or knew you guys as well. So like I think there's probably a little bit like in the first season where it's like I need to like prove that I know something. But more or less, like the three of us just like kind of like made that journey together, like stumbling and like climbing up this mountain and trying to figure it out, and like we all have our own quirks in the way we work, and like me rolling around the floor and like you just pulling your hair out and Brian just sleeping or whatever it is. Like we all have that thing, and then like once like a new person came in, it was like for the first 2 days it was like, oh, there's a guy here.
Did it make you switch up how you did your normal? Did it make you guys think like?
I think for like the first couple of weeks,
I was trying to keep it together in front of Jake, and then I was just like,
I was just like inside I would like just be like inside the couch with like cushions on top of me, like talking on my
socks
ass,
off everywhere,
socks off,
50
just,
socks in the room by the time
like
it's
throwing
done.
things at Jake or whatever. So what was it like, Jake, coming in?
Well, I think things got crazy when we brought that Play-Doh into the room.
that was a pretty late game addition.
Yeah, it was, but it was good because we saw the Breaking Bad writers. They were fucking around with Play-Doh, and we were like, yeah, let's get some Play-Doh in here. And that was a lot of fun, but a lot of immature things were crafted out of
My favorite being when I made, because we obviously Play-Doh dicks were made, but I made a Play-Doh dick and I put it on the doorknob.
Of course.
And Jake went to open the door, It was classic. That's how VGHS was written, by the way.
Just grown men acting like 5-year-olds.
But you had that smile on your face, and you're just looking at me. And I was like, what is Matt doing? And I looked at the Play-Doh penis on the door hat.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to ask,
sir.
because I was around for the first season. I just moved in with you guys when you were writing the first season, and yeah, there was other stuff going on, but I mean, like, the main focus was writing the show. Like, there was nothing really else that you had to focus on, but just the show itself. I want to know how it felt this season, because Will, I know you've been helping a lot writing other shorts and helping the team here in the office with doing that. And Matt, you've got to direct, and like you said, you're doing post on season 2. And Jake, you're still doing Ruby Dog and all your shorts with John and everything. I want to know how different or how hard it was coming into this season, knowing you had all of these other responsibilities at the same time to do all that. Did that hinder your writing process, or was that something really hard to get used to, or how did that go?
I feel like it mostly just blew off all my other responsibilities.
Yeah, I was about to say, I just made other stuff harder. I mean, honestly, essentially, when if I have a month I was doing post, I was doing post, but otherwise, like any other thing, kind of more or less takes backseat.
We were really grateful to have, like, we had the writer's room, which was this was the first season we actually had a room with a door we could close and just hunker down.
Yeah, it used to be the living room.
Yeah, it used to be a living room with a bunch of people walking around. So we actually, once Matt got out of post, like, we had, and especially, like, once we sat in and finally were like, okay, it's time to start writing the scripts, as opposed to, like, those sort of 3 months of, like, outlining and re-outlining. Like, it was pretty uninterrupted, like, just day in, day out working on the show, which was really nice, because it's like I've kind of got the opposite of that going on, because again, like, I'm working on the shorts and, like, doing some other stuff, and it's like, it's very hard to you can't focus on any, and the way writing works is it's like, you get out of the room, and you go home and you make dinner and you have your bath and it's still just turning in the back of your head. And so it's like nice to have like one singular thing to kind of just dial in on.
Yeah, definitely.
Jake?
No, yeah. I mean, a writer's mind, it's good to have just focus on one soul. Like Will was saying, like, there's always like I'm always thinking about a bunch of different little stories in my head, but just to focus, when I was doing VGHS, it was like, no, like, what the fuck's going to happen with Jenny this episode? And that was like the sole thought on my mind for...
So did you guys, obviously, it's the third season and there's rumblings that it's going to be the last one, obviously. So did you already have a plan coming in before you even started outlining season 3? Like when you finished up season 2, did you already kind of know in your heads where you wanted to go, where you were headed?
Had a general... Again, because when we did, I think we said before, but when we did season 2, we weren't really sure how we were doing it or how big it was going to be, and we kind of came up with 12 episodes. And like a lot of the general stuff is actually kind of there. Like weirdly, actually, the mid-season climax of season 3 is pretty similar to actually what the season 2 climax was originally. Like when we did 12 episodes, the middle point of those 12 episodes was kind of what's going to happen midway through season 3, and then some stuff got juggled around and kind of changed and whatnot. But we kind of knew more or less like kind of what we wanted the ending to be, and we kind of knew that we always kind of said that when we did the 12 episodes, it was all about building up the characters and building up those friendships and really defining who those characters were, because season 1 was very much like Brian's movie. It was like Brian essentially proves that he belongs at VGHS is more or less what season 1's about. Season 2 is about who is Key, like who is Ted, like who is actually the law deep down, like, and what is Brian and Jenny like as a couple, and how can they be together, and who is Jenny, like, with her mom and all that stuff. It's all about like building the foundation of those characters, and then at the end, kind of putting them all in their new places with, Brian and Jenny together, like Ted and Brian broken up, like Key going to the campaign. Like we're kind of like really building that foundation. We knew season 3, or even when it was one big season, was then going to be about testing those friendships and testing those new identities the characters discovered. Like can Key like go actually battle like Shane, and like what is she like in politics, and how is she going to deal with it, and how are Brian and Jenny as a couple, and how does Brian deal with like the loss of Ted, and like Ted without friends, like, and like with the Drifters, what's that like, and essentially strain the friendships as much as we possibly could, and then rebuild it to what hopefully is like a satisfying climax.
I had an interesting thought the other day. I was working on something else, but it was about VGHS, and again, like, because there is this shift between season 1 and season 2 that a lot of fans have picked up on. A lot of people like, a lot of people don't like as much. Where it goes from being a very action. Both seasons have a lot of action, but you have season 1, like Brian's goal is very external and tangible. It's I got to fight to prove that I belong here. And then his goal in season 2 becomes much more relationship based. And it's interesting to me how much, and this was something I didn't even realize at all when we were writing the show, when we were writing the character and kind of building that into Brian's DNA. But it's like so much of your show is defined by the primary goals and needs of your main character.
Yeah.
And again, in season 1, he had this very primary, strong external goal, and then. Again, once we got to season 2, it was like that had been resolved, and like this sort of like new goal came out of Brian, which was a much more, and it was just very natural evolution of the character.
Yeah.
But then it was interesting because then it also affected the show on this big level because it was like Brian never like the struggle was always to make Brian give a shit because he's not like Jenny where it's like his whole identity and his whole sense of self-worth comes from like winning or losing a game. So that very quickly stops being the dramatic crux of the show, and it's the emotional stakes about the relationships.
Because even in season 1, he doesn't really care about. I mean, he cares. He likes playing games. He loves playing games. He wants to do well. But the reason he plays so hard in season 1 isn't even about like I need to make it on the team. Like I need to be the best player in the world. It's like literally I need to survive the law. Like,
yeah. Well, it's also it's even there. Even in season 1, it's all about belonging somewhere. Yeah. It's all about having a place to belong. And it was again. I don't think it was something we were conscious that we were writing into the show. But then it was like in season 2 and season 3, like it became much more relationship based, which is interesting. It's like you look at a show again. Like I mean, like you look at like It's like if Walter White cared like way more about his family than his ego, like that would be this really intense family drama type show. Like the meth stuff would take like a sort of more of a back burner thing. But yeah, it was I don't know. That was definitely. It was funny just in even hearing you talk through like what season 2 was about and season 3 was about. It's like it definitely all revolves around I think that pretty fundamental redefinition of like what Brian wants as the central character of the show. Because then all of the other stories become about like these people and their relationships to Brian and stuff like that.
Yeah. And kind of to go off that, it being the final season, now, does that give you guys more freedom when you're in the writer's room and when you're going over ideas? Does it make you just feel like, this is the chance, I got to get this idea in now, or like, fuck it, I don't care, this is the last time we're going to do it, we're going to go out like this? You know, does it give you a little more freedom with your ideas in terms of what...
There's a little bit of that. I think, to me, I think the experience, obviously I've only run like the end of something once, I mean, other than the end of seasons, but I think I think the one thing that the ending helps you with, it's not even that it's different than all writing should essentially, you should be focused on the story regardless. Like that's everything should come out of that. Like you should be slave to the story. Any decision should be made is about whether or not it fits the story being told regardless. And 70% of the time you do that, 30% of the time you don't. And sometimes the stuff that doesn't involve the story is funny and it's not offensive and it doesn't hurt the overall product. But regardless, like you definitely should always be focused on the story. I don't think writing to the end changes anything. All it does is that it becomes a lot easier and more clear as to what you are a slave to. Like in season 2, it was a lot easier to kind of like have tangents because it's like we knew what the story was, but it wasn't the end, so it's not like we only had so much time to do it. Season 3, it's like we know we're ending. We have 6 episodes. There's a lot of story to be told, and it's very easy to judge ourselves and be like, this just doesn't fit. Like, I love this. This is a fun idea. It's too bad we'll never be able to get to do it because we're not doing a 4th season, but we know what the ending is. We know what the beats are. Like, it doesn't fit.
It's the it forces you into kind of it limits you in I think the right way but it also gives you the freedom to be like, we're gonna go here. Whereas opposed to like if you're like, oh, we're trying to stretch the show out another 3-4 seasons, like you might not do certain character things that we do this season. That said, like thinking more about it, like thinking where the show winds up at the end, like you could totally do another season. It would be a lot of work and you'd have to like redefine a lot of stuff. But it's like but it was definitely like. Yeah, it was nice to have that, and it honestly I don't think it was too much different from having an ending in mind for like your season when you start to write your season. Like it was just having the end of the sentence figured out, like more or less where you're going. I do sometimes lament that we don't get that this isn't a big show with like a 22 episode season because then we'd get to go on a lot. We have so many ideas that just wind up on the floor because it's like. They're tangential, or again, when you've got 6, you've got to be very disciplined about. And even again, like I kind of like to think that we pull off more or less the magic trick of like each episode is self-contained and is like its own little world, but still is. It's like these circles that are moving forward the next circle of the story, and like kind of like so they all work. It works fractally, like you can watch an individual episode or you can watch it as part of a thing. But we definitely don't get the opportunity to just go on some really fun derails that I think. Like we were always trying to get a Pogs episode in, which I thought would have been amazing.
There's a lot of like
a lot of really goofy shit.
And you can just say we came up with certain characters that like we cut.
Oh yeah, we had to cut some.
Like Brant Frandl.
Give us some of your characters that you kept.
Well, there's the first episode we had the character Brant Frandl, and we had like
say some of his lines.
Would you have played Brant Frandl?
No, but like
Brant
Frandl, the Brant Frandl, like something along those lines.
He was saying we were going to
Brant Frandl sounds like he does the morning announcement.
They were sports gamers. That was going to be the thing. We had this whole idea that they were like, we were like, where are the sports gamers at VGHS?
Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen NFL or Madden or anything like that. And we had we were going to do this whole NFL Blitz set piece with Jenny. And it was going to be a lot of fun. And again, it was just one of those things where and again, like we kind of like the idea, like that the sports gamers, like the Brant was like this kind of affable John Candy type who was like kind of a doofus.
And they're like 1940s sports reporters is what we came up with. This kind of style. They're all like overalls and like fedoras and like newsies essentially.
We came up with this thing.
Got their pork pie hats on and their cigar.
And they had a great story. And that was like a last minute. That was like episode 1. There's a problem here. What's the problem?
It was
and
like,
we thought it was a bunch of other stuff, and then it was literally like, oh, Jenny's story is the problem.
Jenny's story is a bunch of bullshit.
And it's really fun, and it literally is one of our favorite characters. Because essentially what they were is they were just lovable dudes who just wanted to. There's a whole gamer decathlon. It was like, they just want to have fun at the gamer decathlon, and Jenny's super competitive, and she teams up with them because the rest of the team doesn't want to play with her. She takes them on, and she goes to intense, and there's this great kind of like climax to it. Where,
this was great. Yeah,
the last game in the gamer decathlon they were playing was gonna be Left 5 Dead, which was just Left 4 Dead with 5 players, and Jenny's like holding them off, and all of a sudden she hears a door close behind her, and it's the sports gamers have locked the door behind her. She's like, guys, what are you doing? He's like, you're mean. Like, we just want to play and have fun, and you've just been like a bitch this whole time. And she's like, oh my god, you gotta open up, you're gonna lose. Like, yeah, we'll die, but we'll die with a smile on our face. Goodbye, Jenny. And they run off, and she loses the decathlon.
And she gets ripped up. And then we were going to do all the FPS players from the FPS team as zombie versions of themselves, playing the zombies. And then it's Jenny's just like, nerds! And she's just like getting torn apart. Like, it was going to be really fun.
And then we pretty quickly realized, like, that's season 1 Jenny.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need another entire story to show
she's too competitive.
Yeah,
it's like, come on.
She's too competitive. It's like, we what we really needed was to show what she really wanted, which is going to the pros. And we wanted to show, like, a more vulnerable, interesting side to her, and I think what we came up with is definitely
more. It humanizes her a lot,
and much better of a story, and frankly, it's like just as funny, if not funnier. So
it does better stuff for Ashley, our villain, that season 2. Because that was the other thing we weren't setting. Anyway,
there's a lot of stuff. I think the one thing the ending does, which I don't want to preempt it in a way where people think, well, like we're getting preachy or pretentious in it, but like I do think there's definitely a sense of like what the statement of the show is, like much more strongly, and there's just a lot of stuff where I was watching us film it where we were laughing about, I think it was Stephen King who was saying that you never know, you never know that you're writing yourself in. Like no matter how many times he's written a book, it's not until it's over that it's like he realizes he put himself in his book, and everybody's like, really? Like, you literally 90% of your characters are alcoholic writers. Yeah. And he's like, you never notice it. And then it's just when we're filming stuff, I realize like, wow, like this is so much like us talking to ourselves. There's just a lot about, growing up in it and kind of like moving on from kind of this adolescent life. And
saying
there's a lot
goodbye.
of saying goodbye. There's a lot because it's the end of the show. I feel like there's a lot about it that's kind of like a statement. And there's also just a lot about it that I feel like is definitely kind of what you're alluding to, where we're like, screw it, like this is our last go. Like, we're definitely gonna do this. Like, we're definitely gonna kind of take this risk on this episode because we're not gonna have a chance to do it another time. And I think we have some pretty risky
I was definitely
moments.
gonna say, because this, I mean, we're a lot through the shooting now, and I've read the scripts and everything, but it's definitely a way edgier show than it has been in the past.
This is not an E for everyone season.
Yeah, definitely not.
It's T for teen, suggestive themes.
Now, was that always the plan? Because because it was pretty much a kid's show, or was that? Because I know Jake. I'm trying to throw you a bone here, Jake. Because Jake is from a history of doing edgy type stuff. That Jake coming and be like, guys, this is lame. Let's get it a little tougher here. Like, but seriously, like
it's
the
just
third
us
season
trying to impress Jake the whole time.
Yeah,
Jake think we're cool, man.
Because the third season really is. It's a whole lot edgier of a show than it ever has been in the past. Like, I really wouldn't. I don't know how, the best way I would do, I don't know, this is a terrible way to describe it. I don't know, but like to me it felt like more of like a show you could put on Disney years ago, but now it's like a show where you guys are hitting issues like some TGIF stuff, like there's like actual stuff going on instead of just
they're teenagers, and you gotta deal with the fact, like, you gotta, like, and it was like, especially because so much of the season is about growing up, like, you have to, like, make them teens, and, like, again, like, seasons 1 and 2 are, like, so, like, it's, again, and we've always kind of talked about it, it's like, even though it all takes place over the course of 1 year, it's like kind of like 4 years of high school. So it's like, this is definitely, we're getting into the junior and senior year of our show, and that means you got to deal with stuff that, like, again, like, like, you can only have a show about a bunch of good-looking teenagers, that is completely asexual that for so long before you have to start dealing with stuff. Like, you have to, like, like they're you get in rebellion and angst and like that stuff that like just comes out naturally, and especially as you're just trying to figure out new shit to do with the characters every week. It's like this is like where to go with it. It's part of growing up.
Yeah, I think it's not to get too self-reflexive, but I think we've grown up with the show essentially, and I think I always laugh and say that it's
Matt finally hit puberty between seasons 2 and season 3.
It took I didn't start growing up until I was like 27 years old. But no, I really do think some of it's also we've just gotten better as writers, and I think it's also we've just also kind of us discovering what the show actually is put out there in broad daylight for everybody to see. Like I think VGHS is a very unique viewing experience in that you do see kind of a young group of people without kind of any studio or any kind of oversight whatsoever discovering how to write, direct, act, produce, edit, everything. Like the VGHS is the first big thing any of us put out there, and we wrote it without any help, and season 2 is just us responding to it, and season 3 is hopefully like kind of like the culmination of everything we've learned. And I think there's a lot of synthesis between seasons 1 and 2 and 3. There's a lot more external conflict and a lot more kind of long form storytelling in season 3 than there was in 2. But I think like not to get into the fans, like to me it's like season 2 is night and day. Like I like season 1, I'm super proud of it. Season 2 is something I would watch like as a fan. Like I think we've grown so much in the way we wrote the characters and and just the comedic writing of it and kind of finding the tone of the show. But I think season 3 kind of takes a lot of the strong parts of season 1 and puts it into.
We got some dope action this season.
Yeah. And I was thinking about though, I feel like it's gonna be the same thing where like last year we had 1 episode without action. This year we have 2 episodes without action.
Ooh.
Sorry, folks.
No, but one of those episodes has a pretty rad stunt in it.
One of those episodes
has some pretty awesome shit
without
in it.
action has a
But
huge
that's the thing,
real life
talking,
stunt.
like per episode though. Like if you're counting minutes of action, like
we're doing the most days of shooting in action.
Stuff. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
The next 2 weeks
stuff
are
that
action.
happens. Yeah.
Other than one day, the next 2 weeks are action.
Well, people always forget season 1 had 2 episodes without any action in it.
Yeah, well, there's just really short episodes.
Yeah.
But does it? I think only 1
season.
episode.
Well, I guess if you count the
fist fight,
the flagpole, but it's not a video game sequence. It's just a brawl.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Matrix or something like that.
I mean, I think we haven't shot it yet, but I mean, the stuff we're trying to do is definitely way bigger than anything we've done. Like in every scenario, both the car stuff and the gun stuff. But there's also only so many times you can set up like a freaking FPS battle and have stakes that matter.
Again, when I was thinking about it the other day, I almost wonder what the show would be like if you had a character like Jenny as the main character.
Yeah,
I think it would be a
different.
very different show, and I think the combat would be a much bigger part of it. Because again, like if you think about the show from Jenny's perspective, like what she cares about, is like we're going up against Stars Hollow High, I gotta beat the sniper, I gotta blah 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 blah. Like you would get in, it would be a much more. Like I feel like VGHS is like it's like Pokemon. If Ash Ketchum really just cared more about his friends than catching all the Pokemon, you know what I mean? It's like he's like, I think someday I want to be a Pokemon master, but I'm like I really want to be just like like I want to just like I've had a tough life and man, I'm just so happy to be here. Like and it's such a weird difference. Like the anyway,
we put Brian into pretty dark places this season, so that's the thing I like. He's the most. He definitely has the most agency this season than he's had in. Because again, season 1's a lot about it's very reactive. It's a lot of him trying to survive. Like he wants to go out with Jenny, but that's not really the core of his story. It's mostly surviving the law. Season 3, like he makes some pretty bold choices. He has things he wants, and he makes good and very bad decisions in trying to get them, or trying to hang on to them, or etc. It's a weird season. We were also. I was having. Will said it was a very stoner thought, but I was just thinking about the growth of the show. Also, is that I think we've also kind of evolved in kind of understanding how to use genre in the video games. Because season 1 we had this like weird experiment where we put the arcade episode. We just wanted to do a whole different
Casablanca thing. Yeah,
and like I'm so happy we did, and I like it tonally. I think it's definitely is not the most like coherent or necessarily like well. I don't think all of the function of that episode necessarily fits that form. I think some of it does. I think some of it doesn't.
What's
really it's definitely jarring.
To sidebar for just a sec, what's really mind blowing about that episode is I feel like everyone thinks we just deliberately did this goofy thing, but it was like that was the only way it worked in our heads. Like we were literally stuck on that episode forever until we found that idea. So it wasn't like we had some normal version of that episode. They were like, nah, you know what? Let's kick it up a notch. Like that was what made it make sense to us.
Yeah, anyway, it's all in story purpose. I think it. And again, some people it's their favorite episode, so that's great. I think season 2 we push a little bit more. Season 3, like there's essentially what it is like the video games allow us to do the genres that we want, which is a lot of fun. Like I always want to do a teen show. I always wanted to do like a John Hughes like style like movie. You can't do that with gunfights. You could with video games, and you could do car chases too. You could do anything. You could do all these different genres. Season 3, those genres kind of bleed outside of the video games.
Oh,
and
a lot, yeah.
We just started kind of accepting like, screw it. Like we can just. There's a new group of gamers in the show, and just their entire classroom and their whole lifestyle outside of the video game is just kind of stylized in a way that's totally different than we would have done in season 1 for sure. And the second episode is like literally 3 genres per the character's stories that have nothing to do with video games.
Yep.
That's my favorite episode.
I'm really excited to see episode 2 come to life. It's the
same episode. It's fun. You guys.
Should we give people a tantalizing little taste? Maybe just the title.
Yeah. What can you spoil for us?
Nobody Cool Goes to Prom, and then it's our first format break where we do 4 stories: Brian, Jenny, Ted, and Key, and we separate it out.
They're all individuals.
You see, there's 4 individual stories played back to back, and each one of them plays in a very different genre.
And it takes place at prom.
It takes place at
nobody
prom.
in the episode goes to prom.
And the stories kind of interweave with each other a little bit, but it's kind of like got that like kind of Run Low Run-esque thing going on.
Yeah, so there's Key's story. And
Key's story is so fun. Anyway.
Yeah, and they're all like different genres, and they're all just kind of crazy. And they're all kind of they all very specifically place the characters where they're going to be for kind of like the fall, more or less. It's the turning. It's kind of like it's the most just
prelude to the fall. Yeah,
it's like the most just like straight fun episode too. Like again, it definitely fits. It's probably the most like a season 2 episode in that like episode 1 kind of sets up everything. Episode 2 kind of shows you like what that means, and then 3 and 4 and 5 just like rocket the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2's a lot of fun. It was I don't know. Every season's a totally different process.
Hey guys, how's it going? Jimmy Wong, aka Ted from VGHS here, telling you to check out shop.rocketjump.com. We've got brand new merchandise like iPhone cases and iPad decals to shirts, Blu-rays, and posters, including brand new Season 2 designs from our friends at Danger Brain. There's also the incredibly popular VGHS hoodie, and some of our older shirts are on sale for a great price. So make sure you check it out right after this podcast at shop.rocketjump.com. Thanks so much, guys.
In terms of like action and like just I always think about stuff you want to do that's fun. That like you're like, I'll be there on set that day. What does that ever clip into your heads when you're writing stuff? Because I know the second season we got to do that big sweet explosion, and I would imagine like if I'm writing a show like and I have the idea and the possibility to write something that includes me going to hang out with my friends and ride 4-wheelers and blow something up, like that's gonna make it in the script. Like what of like that, or if was there anything like that in this season that you were like, all right, this is the last go around, we're going to have one big sweet action scene, we got to do this is my chance to do this? Is there anything like that happens at all this season? Or
I feel like there were some holdover story ideas that we wanted to like again. Yeah. We had a couple of ways to escalate the FPS stuff that we didn't do in season 2. That was like, like again, it's like again because you watch like we're in the writers' room and like we watch all of the like the little. Like, we've seen every Battlefield 3 sick video with, like, the trick shots and the Zook loops and stuff like that. And you see shit like that, and you're like, oh, my God, we need to do this. And then it didn't fit in Season 2, but, like, we've got a couple of things at the end of Season 3 that I'm just so fucking pumped for.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, in Episode 3... with I almost said his name, which would be bad. Like the way he kills somebody at the end is like straight up like the original idea for the first kill in season 1.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of stuff like that. I think where it really is, and I kind of knew that going into it, but there's definitely, everything we put in there is stuff that we were excited about and we want to put in. There's a lot of stuff that we were super excited about that were holdovers that we never got in, like laser tag episode and stuff like that. But for me, a lot of season 3 is actually getting just like I think we've grown. I think we've watched these like young actors who I think are incredible, and I would literally place next to any cast on TV grow as actors. And there's a lot of stuff that was like we want to give these actors things that we know they're good at, and we've seen in the seasons 1 and 2, and like they should do it. Like Josh is like, if Josh was just like straight up, I want to be the next Chaplin, like he could be. And seeing the stuff he did this year, like great. He could be like. And I'm so picky and specific about physical comedy, and he was blowing me away in season 2, and then just watching him on set and talking to him, and there's a lot of stuff we want to give him. Like there's staging of scenes that are just normal dialogue scenes that we wanted to mix up so that he had something to play with.
Well, yeah, I remember in season 2 the dinner scene with the Countess and Calhoun and Jenny and her mom with like it was a revelation. I was just like, holy crap! Like it was like Josh was just killing it in that scene left and right, and it was definitely like we need to give like okay, so Josh is really good at this stuff. Let's give him some more.
There's a dialogue scene between him and Jenny that's just a straight up like talking scene. I won't say what we do, but like we put him in an awkward like physical situation in the staging of it, and he just crushed it. Johanna, like we always say that she was the most different from the character we wrote, which was great because I think the original Jenny we wrote like probably would have like sunk the show, and Jenny is and Johanna brings so much.
Johanna humanized the hell out of her.
Humanizes them and makes her feminine and a bunch of other stuff that is just all the power to her. She's freaking incredible. And but she's always kind of at odds with like some of the stuff like that's with Jenny, and like I think we give her, and it fits perfectly for Jenny's story, we give her a lot of stuff that's like Johanna was
more
like
in her
literally
wheelhouse,
calling me, like crying, thanking me for like some of the ridiculous stuff we let her do this season because it's like her dream to do these different scenarios.
Well, you know what it was? It was also like season 1, she so had to be a foil for Brian. She had to be like everything Brian wasn't, just because that was how the character had to go. Because again, it was a Brian story first and foremost. So like he could be the goofy one. She had to be hard-assed and straight-laced, and like she had to be intense. And even in season 2, so much of the conflict revolved around them
the revelation
together.
was in watching episode 5, she just gets to be a little bit goofy. She doesn't have that many scenes, but just like her
her being super competitive with the Duchess. We're like, Johanna's hilarious. We should give her more of this stuff. And then it was like, now that she kind of like has established herself on the show, and like again, the conflict isn't really between her and Brian as much in those first couple episodes, it was like, oh, okay, like we can like Jenny can let her hair down a little bit, or at least we can see a side. Like again, like we do some stuff that it's like you start thinking about situations that because you always want to find places to put your character outside of their comfort zone. Like to me, the best one of my favorite examples from season 2 was the fart noises scene with Key, where it's like she can handle anybody at the school. Like she's smart and she can out talk anybody. And she's like one of the smartest characters on the show. She is thwarted utterly by the law just farting at her. She can't argue. Same thing with her and Cheeto. It's just like this like she can't do it. And we do some stuff similar to that with Jenny this season, where it was like, okay, you have this girl who's very intense and like has like this one like you. And it was again, it's like you put her in a field of fire match and she's a robot, like she's just going to be the Terminator. But it's like we started finding other situations for her where it's like she's as inept as any other character on the show, and just as awkward and vulnerable, and it makes her it humanizes the character so much.
Yeah, and then I mean this is across the board for the characters. Like I mean Jimmy has the most like a ton of stuff this season, and it's just like we saw his range, and even saying too much about it would probably spoil some stuff. It's just like we have to give Jimmy some stuff.
I mean, I know you guys hooked me up for sure. I got some fun stuff to do. Man, I love it.
And then Ellery's is like just such a freaking crazy, brilliant actress that, and Key has like such a kind of a single. I won't say a single note because Ellery brings so much to it that like she. Only Jumpin' Jacks compares in terms of just watching the entire thought process in a character's like face as she's talking and figuring things out. But like Key definitely had like kind of a specific tone, and like everything was kind of like her battling against this. Like season 3 is a lot of like let Key have an existential crisis and figure out who she is, which then let Ellery play just so much more stuff that I just wanted to see her play. Like it was just like, let's watch her be this sort of character. Like let's like throw her into like this sort of scenario where she gets to act like a detective or something. There's just a lot of fun stuff. So to me that was like the biggest thing with 3 was definitely like, all right, we know who these actors are, we know who these characters are. Like what's the most fun and like difficult situations we could put them in, and like let's watch these people shine. And I think we've shot everything other than the action now, so I've seen all the big scenes, and I mean everybody just freaking brings it. Like
Shane Pizza, I think that's expanding upon his character. I think
definitely the stuff you give Chase to do after a year of hanging out with him and just knowing the kind of guy he is, like the stuff he gets to do.
I'm really excited about that.
Fantastic.
Like there's a lot of fun stuff. Like I was on set for one day and it was like Chase.
Which day were you on?
The one
Is this when he just hauls off on John Carmen? Like he just
slaps
him
okay.
full force
so
in the face?
excited to see that scene edited. Just
It's
like
gonna be great.
I heard
Just to
so
see-
much
Oh,
about that scene because I know our AD loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it because he had to, he was John's boss last year, so I guess
Yeah.
that was just hilarious. That whole.
Well, what's
scene.
great about that is this is in rehearsal. It's great. It's funny in the situation because Chase and John are friends.
Yeah.
And in rehearsal, it doesn't say in the script, and then we're just like, you should slap him. And usually like fake slap or like figure out a way to do it. And it's just like literally the first rehearsal while we were blocking.
Chase is like, finally.
smacks him so hard, like so hard in the rehearsal. And I thought it was just a joke. And then he's like, all right, cool. And I was like, okay, well, let's just take it from there. And he just slapped him again. And he slapped him like 4 times before we even started taking takes. He did like 8 takes, and like he was slapping us. And John was such a trooper, and then it was great because there was somebody who slaps Key later, and like Ellery was like, well, if John can get slapped 12 times, like I have to just let myself be slapped.
Just slapping
And,
24/7 on
we had
VGHS.
we had a new character, Cher, and that's played by this girl named Lily.
Played by
who's
Cher, no.
who's a friend of ours, who's great. And man, there's this one slap that's. I mean, I don't think we could have done another take. It was just like a handprint. Like, she slapped Ellery so hard. It was incredible, and that scene's incredible.
to see that.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite scene of the whole show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was the scene I was most excited about filming, and after watching it, it's like...
Yeah.
There's a big. We have a couple risky gambles this season in terms of like, is the audience going to go for this?
Yeah.
There is part of Key's election plot that Ted gets caught up in that is just like, oh my god, like it's betting big.
It's betting big. It's hinging a lot off of kind of a pretty like dumb, silly plot point and kind of like scenario.
But you play the emotions right. Yeah,
It's my favorite. It's definitely my favorite scene of the whole show. I mean, because so much of it hinges on Ellery, and Ellery's just brilliant in it. And then I think it's honestly one of the best things we've written in terms of kind of a lot of stories kind of coming to one point and climaxing at the same point. It's a crazy scene. And any scene where you can get Chase and Ellery and Jimmy all in a scene together is like magnificent. And when like multiple people are getting slapped, like it's great.
Doing something right.
Is doing something right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we didn't even talk about Chase and we essentially had to write like a new villain. And like Chase and Shane Pizza he's just incredible. So it's a lot of fun.
He's
Yeah,
great.
it's talked about like you had Key versus the Law, where it was like it was opposites, where it's like again the Law is just it's like some men just want to watch them out back. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like he's just anarchy, and Key is just like can't handle it.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like Shane Pizza, like you start to realize it's like Key but evil in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like that was always kind of how I thought about it. It was just another brilliant like kind of person.
Well, to me,
who's
it's like Shane is more like watch the world burn. Like Law is like so. I mean, Law is a bad guy, but he's just such a clearly immature, insecure man-child who's deeply hurt on the inside. And that's what makes Brian's performance of it so great because you just know the guy is just crying on the inside at all times.
Yeah.
Whereas Shane is just a sociopath.
He's just pure evil.
Yeah.
And he's like Key without any like if Key had no
evil
moral
would be
compass,
too much work for him.
Yeah.
He's just pure like
self-interest.
Why
yeah.
not? Like, hey, I'm handsome and rich and in charge, so.
It's like Key is so devoted to helping other people, and it's like using her powers for good. Whereas Shane is like, again, he's got the same kind of brilliance and the same kind of like he gets it, like he just gets everything that's going on. But then he just doesn't care and just wants to serve him. Again, it's not evil per se, because it's more like chaotic neutral almost. Like it's like he just like doesn't give a fuck about anything other than just pleasing himself. Like, and so even if he's just bored and thinks something will be fun, he'll do it.
Yeah, and it's the perfect. And it's funny because Shane Pizza is definitely one of those things where we had a lot of. For example, you talk about story one. Like we so wanted to get Shane Pizza and Key as a thing.
Like we want him to fall in love with her.
And it ended up becoming, it was just a really good story for Shane, but not a good story for Key.
Yeah.
Like Shane falling in love with Key was so funny.
Yeah.
Like we had all these great scenes with phone calls with his dad, and like him not knowing how to handle his emotions, and just like jumping from being like the most like sexist, awful person to being like this really vulnerable like guy. Like it was just so funny. It just wasn't interesting for Key at all. Like I remember we never bought Key falling for him, so that wasn't gonna happen. And then it became more about Ted's response to it, which was funny.
Just like Key was just this object in this contest between Ted. Although there was a ton of great stuff in that. One was we had at one point this line where it was going to be like we had this whole Boy Meets World thing going on. Where I think was it Boy Meets? Did we figure out it was Boy Meets World that did that? We literally without doing it just
like an episode of Boy Meets World
where where the girl and the guy get locked on the roof during prom and it was like Key and Shane stuck on.
Episode.
So it was the boiler room episode on the roof.
Yeah.
But we had one thing where it's gonna be like Shane tries to kiss her and then she runs away, and then like Shane's like trying to stop her, and it was gonna be like one of those like where this hero says something really romantic, but he's gonna be like, Key, wait, and then she turns and he's like, I'll pay you $5 million to be my girlfriend. Like that was like his last desperate throw.
I'm gonna marry that girl. She was gonna walk away from him all super like she was, because the idea was that he had like a never been kissed like super prank to perform on her, and then it was gonna be like he goes on the roof and she says something kind of mean to him, and he's like, Key, wait. Actually, go right ahead. And then she takes a step and it happens, and she gets super mad at him and like crying, like devastated, like this big dramatic scene. And she walks off, and he was just gonna like pull a wad of money out, light it on fire, and light a cigar. Be like, I'm gonna marry that girl someday. Like it's just like that was so
just the
funny
ultimate boy mean to girl that he likes because he doesn't know how to interact with her.
Yeah.
We had that moment where like they were like Key was like trying to make a paper airplane and like throw it off the roof so someone would get the message.
Oh, that they're stuck on the roof.
Yeah, and then she didn't know how to do it, but then Shane like goes up behind her and like shows her how to make a paper airplane, and it like goes,
then also
sails perfectly
after all
through
that,
the
the
air.
reveal that Shane's had a cell phone the entire time,
Yeah,
and then
he
she's
calls
like,
his
you have a
dad.
cell phone, and he just throws it off the roof.
Yeah, he's like, no, I don't. Yeah,
we had
Again, that's
that.
funny for Shane.
And then, well, then the other, the really
it was
great
good Shane stuff.
Ted story that we had to cut was going to be Key wants Ted to make a campaign video for her campaign because
Yeah.
like Shane's doing like his like vote for Shane, like his like Shane Pizza, he's great and blah blah blah, and then Ted is charged with making these videos and he really wants to prove that he's going to be a good part of Key's campaign, and then he finds out that Shane likes Key and he like starts freaking out about it, and then he's like starts trying to do attack ads about Shane, but then in the middle of the ad like realizing how awesome Shane is, where he's like, Shane Pizza has a lot of money and is super good looking. Oh God! And then it's just like every ad would just end with Ted like.
They all were just like streams of consciousness that started with like vote for Key, but then turned into Shane's awesome, and then like please Key stay with me like I love you, and then it was just
It's gonna be like
the punchline was always it would end with like
vote for, like paid for by Key Swan.
yeah, like it was always gonna be like, oh God, but Key, I'll always be there for you. Please remember I'm your boyfriend Ted
Yeah,
Wong. Like vote for Key.
And then or he'd be like, "Hi, I'm Ted Wong. I think I should continue to be Key's boyfriend." It's kind of like this whole like, but yeah, it was just again one of those very funny ideas that if it was a 20 episode show, you would do it because you'd need just meat for the grinder, but
then it didn't fit Ted's story. The hardest thing about this episode was like since everybody had their own stories, it's the most, and that's why all the episodes are like now closer to 40 minutes long. It's much more like a drama in a way, even though it's
much
still
more like Game of Thrones or Mad Men this season.
It's that there's a lot of just cross-cutting. There's a lot of like these are three. Season 2 is mostly like an A plot.
Yeah.
Which usually tries to involve two characters, and then you have B and C, or even like two Bs, but they kind of all intermingled, and it was more or less you kind of had two main plots. This season's definitely a lot of like there are three main plots per episode, and then like usually a fourth one that's like kind of underneath it, whether it's like with Mary or Calhoun. Yeah, so it's just a lot of structurally is the most difficult season for sure. And again, like we said, it's the most. It's the storyline is about as consistent as season 1 is in that it's very much every episode leads straight into the other. So, on a technical level, that was probably, I think it was the hardest season to write for sure.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
definitely.
Was it difficult for you, Jake, coming in? Because I know I'm guessing you'd seen a little bit of the show before you had met all of us, because you guys just moved out here recently. Was it difficult for you coming into the room where, like they said earlier, they had all their things that they're used to doing, the way they work? Was it hard for you to come in and maybe like, because they said they brought you in as a writer's assistant. They said it didn't take long for them to realize you were going to be more than that. Obviously, you've got some balls on you, and you're just throwing ideas out there. Like, was that difficult for you at first to come into like this established team?
I was definitely a little bit nervous because it's your guys' baby. Mm-hmm. You were there from the beginning. You are our stepdad.
I'm the stepdad. You're the stepdad. The cool new dad.
Aren't I like the bastard son or something? Not the stepdad. But it was just a great experience. And at first it was just you and I, and I was nervous about even like throwing out my feedback because like, what if I say something stupid? That was like going through my head.
You hear it,
but then we say stupid stuff.
And then how many shitty ideas Matt burned through
every day.
It's
just such a liberal environment, and like they're just you guys are really nice guys, and I really warmed up to it, and like it just became really fun, and like it was really an open environment where you can just throw out ideas. And
well, Jake, you didn't just come up with the episode 4 thing. You also came up with the opening of the show for episode 1. Yeah, which is one of my favorite things about the show this season is the opening scene, and that was your idea. And then we were again because we were all at lunch. I'm like, how do we start this episode? We wanted to do this kind of montage, and then you were like, what about this? And it was like, holy crap, that's it. It was like, I love the beginning of episode 5 is
or episode 1 is definitely like us trying to be like, this is what the show's like this year. It's pretty big.
It's definitely been like, we're going big, guys. Like,
yeah, it's like, here we go.
And it starts. I also love that it starts with a series finale.
Yeah,
kind of like drop that cryptic hint on the internet.
Yeah, what does that mean?
One of the things I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know. I'm sure you can't spill the beans now, but I just want to know if there is an answer. I mean, because I know second season, like you guys said, there's a lot more about the characters. We learn who everybody is. Third season, we obviously learn a lot more about all the other characters as well. And there's info that people want to know about certain people, like DK. Is he a teacher? Is he a student? Like
we do literally answer that DK question, which is weird because we don't answer in the way we thought. Because we had the answer. We knew who DK was for seasons 1 and 2.
When do we answer that in the show?
He straight up says, I'm drifting off to...
Oh, yeah.
Like,
but we still have, because we have the origin comic that goes into a bit more what his mysterious position is.
Yeah, but we say what he is and then where he's going.
Yeah.
But we had an answer for it. I guess we're still doing the origin comic, so we won't say it.
Yeah.
But like... And we definitely are aware of it. Like we know the universe essentially is put together by duct tape, and to be fair, like a lot of it doesn't have stuff. I'll put it this way: like we're aware of like the whatever like logistical issues, I guess you could say, in the universe. It's just that we don't give a fuck, and we don't give a fuck because it doesn't matter for the story. So, and it's not a real universe. Like, I'm sorry, like a real video game high school where you learn to play video games is a dumb idea, and it's not serious, and it'd be a horrible show to just like see kids play video games.
No, we need to get into their homework more.
Yeah, it's a conceit to allow for, you know, pulpy operatic emotions and crazy action while set in a universe where you can still have teenage problems. Like, that's what it's there for. But DK is one of those things where when we first wrote him, he's only in it enough that we didn't have to answer the question, but we definitely had arguments about, like, I was like, Rocky's kind of old. Like, is he a coach? And, like, you didn't like the idea of coach, and neither of us like the idea of teacher.
Yeah.
So we were like, student, but how's he a student? So we came up with this whole elaborate backstory for it, which is really fun, which I don't want to say we're going to do the comic for it. And season 2, we kind of play it fast and loose. But, like, I don't know, where are any of the teachers, kids? Like, why do you care about DK? Like, I don't know who any of the teachers are.
Yeah. How the classes work. I remember we occasionally tried to hash it out because I'd be like, okay, we got to just know. Like, so they go to class in the morning and they have lunch, and then like I tried to come up with a schedule once, and I was like, it's video game.
That's something you'd have to do if it's a 20 episode.
Yeah, no. Again, like this would be so unsustainable in anything other than a 6 episode. And again, I think you can figure it out.
And we've talked about like if we were doing an animated show, like you would definitely hang on to those things a little bit more because that stuff becomes more important when they have to be more part of the story. When you're only doing like 6 episodes and you have all these like character beats, it's like.
And again, it's also because Brian's goals are so character centric. Like it immediately dials into these relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah, a teacher shows up if we need a teacher.
Yeah, like, and it's also you also just when you're writing an episode, when you're writing a show, you don't want to you try to give out as little information as possible because you don't want to box yourself into anything. Like, and again, sometimes boxing yourself in is good, and like like a limitation can help, but like you don't want to like there were again like we had ideas for like the characterization of Key's parents, like where we were like where we were like, oh, like what if she's got 2 dads and like she's like raised by like gay parents? That'd be awesome. Like Key mentioned her mom season 1, like like season 2, you know what I mean? Like
so
it's just like
do it.
So you can't like you got to get outmaneuvered by yourself sometimes.
And to be fair, the line where DK reveals it's not a big reveal. I keep saying reveal because like who cares who he is? Like seriously, like story-wise, if I said he's a teacher, we'd be like, oh my god, the story is now so much better and makes so much more sense, and the emotions behind Ted's decisions mean more. No, it's just a freaking checklist bullet point that you put underneath the character profile. But when we do finally reveal it, it's good that we didn't say what he was before, because if we had chosen him to be a coach or something, it wouldn't have worked as well as in the line he says. It fits exactly what Ted's going through, and it's like, look, Ted, like this, I'm going here, you need to be this. Like, it works. Like, and I'm glad we didn't box ourselves in by deciding, like,
oh, he's this or he's that.
Oh, he's the teacher, or he's the
going out of your way to explain it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you just want enough information about, because again, DK is a supporting character for Ted's story, so like the really important things are how he relates to Ted's story. So he needs to be a mentor and a good influence, but also a bad influence, the way that like a cool older brother might be. But he also needs to be that kind of fatherly figure as well. So like you need to like be able to balance those things.
There's a lot of good DK stuff this year.
Yeah, Rocky's got some good stuff.
Yeah, it's like the best stuff DK's ever had.
So we're getting close to the end here. So I just want to, if there's anything you can give out, something you're most excited about, we'll go down the line. If there's anything you can spoil or anything you feel like you may be able to talk about that you're most excited about this time around, I think we'd all like to hear that. I know I would.
You start.
No, you start. You're...
Jake, you start.
Go ahead.
I'm most excited about my character.
Oh, we didn't talk about Sebastian at all. Yeah.
Jake plays a character named Sebastian.
He's a force to be reckoned with.
We could probably spoil it to a degree of just like Jake is. We created this character Sebastian in one episode. And it was just a throwaway gag where you just reveal this FPS player who you've never seen before, because it's just Mary being a hard ass, and the character speaks up, and she's like, "Oh, shut up, Sebastian."
Oh, he's like, but Mary. And she's like, "Deal with it, Sebastian." And then it was just
really funny to us because Sebastian's a funny name, and we just like that. So
it was kind of like in Pitch Perfect when they reveal those two girls that were in the climax of Pitch Perfect. There's just two new characters that weren't in the rest of the movie, and we always thought that was really funny. So yeah, it started as that. And then Sebastian kept coming back.
So now Sebastian is a character that shows up once per episode. He always has one line. One episode you have like, it's all one scene. Yeah. And somebody always says your name, Sebastian. Yeah. And you're pretty much a different person every time.
I don't know, but he's
kind of turned into just a straight up douche.
Well, it's like he is very much like that kid. Like it's like everyone knows that fucking kid, like Sebastian, that was just wherever you look, there he was in high school. It's that kid who snuck into the background of every fucking high school yearbook photo, and it was just like, oh, Sebastian, oh my god. So that's what Sebastian is in the terms of the world of VGHS.
I mean, you have a pretty good hit and miss ratio. You pretty much just have 6 killer moments, and that's it. Yeah, you're pretty funny every time. You shot all of them except for one.
Yeah. Oh, see, episode 2, right?
Yeah.
The episode 2 was really good. That was a Brian Ferenzi joke. It's amazing.
So you're most excited about Sebastian.
That's
top 3.
That makes sense.
That's top 3. That's one of them.
That makes sense.
But no, I'm just excited to see people's reaction this season. It's, every season's different, but this is definitely. Like like we were saying, it's more mature and it's dirtier jokes.
Yeah.
So I'm just super stoked.
It's simultaneously more mature and maybe like the least mature.
Yeah, it's like mature. No.
When we say mature, by the way, we don't mean like
blood,
Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan, desaturated, like shaky cam mature. Like we mean,
it's by far the weirdest and most VGHS season.
Yeah, it's definitely not gritty. Like I don't want to give anyone the impression that it's like suddenly like either Brian's meditating on whether or not like killing a guy is like a proper use of justice or something like that.
I mean we still have a talking robot.
Yeah,
and
Shotbot's cousin Talkbot makes his debut.
Yeah,
there's another robot too.
What are you? Yeah,
there is. There's actually another really great robot shows up.
I'm excited for that robot.
Yeah,
that's
that robot. I'm very excited.
New robot.
I'm definitely most excited about episode 4. I can't really say anything about it, but it's the weirdest, like formal kind of joke and gag and kind of twist we've done, and I think it's the best thing we've ever written. But I also think there'll be a good chunk of people that don't like it, so I don't know. It's definitely a balancing act. I'll definitely have to see it in the edit, but everybody killed it performance-wise, and I got to work with like 2 actors, one of which I don't want to reveal, who's an actress from one of my favorite shows of all time, and she was a wonderful addition to the cast, and then anytime
you've announced her on.
Oh, did we did?
Yeah.
Oh, great, Catherine Dent. Yeah, she's incredible.
Yeah.
And then anytime I get to work with John Ennis, he's just one of my favorite people ever. That whole episode's just the biggest gamble we've ever done. People doing their best performances, and it's,
I remember that when we did that episode, the table read.
The table read was
intense.
awesome.
It was intense. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah. So
it's a good one. I'm trying to think what else. Again, because episode 4 is like the big kahuna this season.
Yeah.
There is, if we get it, a cameo in episode 1.
That would be the most exciting.
That is game over. So cool.
I'm just moving home. I'm just driving back home. If
we get that cameo, it's a mic drop. It's
I'm
like
hopping in my purple Stratus and I'm just heading home. It's over.
We have a lot of crazy cameos this year.
That one, that's a big one. I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for Key's story in episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of did a little bit about that.
Yeah,
we do a film noir thing with Key. It's she gets a mystery story, like a straight up, and it was like once we kind of clicked into that, it's called R.A. Confidential, by the way, which is one of my favorite title puns I've ever come up with. But once we clicked into that, it was like Key makes so much sense as a film noir detective and what she's going through in the story, and like we do like a fun. It's literally like this like 7-page it's I think one of the tightest things we've ever written. Like it's like again like I wrote that whole rant on RocketJump about Overdrift a while ago. Like this is as close as we come to like that breakneck, just like holy crap, like you're getting this whole story. I'm excited for that.
And it's even got a real good twist at the end.
It's got a genuinely good twist on it. I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for the end game. I'm really pumped for. We do a couple of things that, and again, like the figure.
That's definitely the most like if you talk about stuff that we're just like fuck it, it's the end. Like
that was
the whole
like
last episode.
We were like we got to go out.
And I think we reigned, and I hope we balanced it. Like endings are always hard, and you want to like satisfy the fans, and like. If done the wrong way, what we did is definitely like borderline like pure fan service. But I think it's reined in and kind of done in a way that is completely story driven and completely about the themes of the show.
Definitely.
But it is straight up like, all right, this is the last episode.
Let's
like
go out with a blaze
you know
of
all these
glory.
characters.
Yeah.
You know what you guys want. Like let's blow it out of the water and like we're like you're getting what like. I think it's what people always wanted to see, so it's a ton of fun.
There's some stuff in that. I won't say what, but the stuff we do with Calhoun in that episode, I'm so jonesing for.
Yeah, we shot
the
big cafeteria moment.
Calhoun's got a couple pretty amazing moments in the finale. The opening of the finale is one of my favorite things we've written. This whole montage is great. And again, it was also just like one of the hardest things about this season was cracking the villain story. What's going on with Napalm, what's going on with Shane, and like once we kind of figured that out, it was like this like. Everything started sliding into focus, and so that I'm really excited because I think it leads us to this. Like we had this idea. Remember when we had the idea for the ending? We're like, oh my god, we do this, and it was like suddenly it was like this beacon in the light of the desert of figuring that season out, where you're just wandering around going in circles, and suddenly you had your waypoint, and it was just like such an exciting feeling.
And it's pretty crazy. It makes the end of episode 5 like a legitimately the craziest cliffhanger we have. Like,
episode 5 cliffhanger is really, really, really good.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's so great. How about you, Benji? What's your most excited besides the Games Dean stuff?
Of course. Honestly, because second season we got to learn more about the characters, but I love that this season has a lot more of just like you get to see what these people do for fun when they're not like when they're actually just like hanging out with each other, or like when they go out and do something wild, like actual like stories that these characters, like when they're 20-some years old, 30-some years old, they're at a dinner party with their wives or something. We get to see some of those stories.
True. I didn't think about that.
We get to see those stories that they're going to be talking about.
His kids about the story.
Like that's what I'm most excited about. This season is filled with the kind of stuff that I remember from high school that I talked to my friends about. Like this one time, like this and this happened. Like this season is just filled with all that kind of stuff, and it just really like as goofy as the show is, I feel like a lot of the stuff we did is the most realistic high school things. Like the scene we did outside at CSUN where we're sitting having our picnic and we're joking around with as goofy as that scene is, that's one of the most at least me personally, that's some realistic shit.
I can say this one, SBS is just like you just literally have a squash, a big penis-looking squash, and you're poking out of the bag and you're giggling and then the scene goes in a different place, but it's like a straight up like here's high schoolers sitting on the lunch.
Like as goofy as the show is, like I really feel like it, and as ridiculous as all the things that happens, I really feel like this season there's some of the most realistic actual like high school stuff that like I remember being a part of. I know I'm going to talk about that these kids like if they were real they would tell these stories, and it all happens now.
Going off of that, Brian's plot in episode 3 I'm so jazzed for, especially there's like some of the funniest stuff we've written. Like he has this scene with Mary that I'm just so how did that go? Did that go well?
That went great, and that was that's actually one of the best. It's always hard whenever you jump into a new season, especially when you're like the only adult. And Mary's definitely one I think we got a way big handle on season 3. Yeah, and Cynthia's such a good comedic actress. She has a lot of incredible scenes this year. Her and Brian in episode 3 is great. Her and Jenny in episode 5 is like, and maybe the scene we were talking about with Shane and slapping, that's still my favorite thing, but like the Jenny Mary scene may be like one of the best performed things I've ever seen us shoot, and just John lit it beautifully, and it's just such a good scene. I love that scene. It's Mary's great, and the stuff in episode 3 is great. Not to keep going on too long, but like you kind of bring up what I think is kind of John Salmon, our DP. We yesterday he's still shooting 1 or 2 little action pieces, but he's got to start Dude Bro Party Massacre 3.
Workhorse.
So he's like going straight into directing it.
Workhorse.
This week was like his last like full week.
Is he not doing the action?
No, another great friend of ours and DP, Arthur, is doing most of the action stuff. And a lot of the to be fair, now that John doesn't freaking just bring it in all the action stuff, the action stuff's a little bit different. There's a lot less. There's almost no lighting. It's all natural light, and Freddie holds the camera.
Freddie's got a lot of
so it is what it is, but he has to start his own stuff. So like this was like his last week. So after the last day, we ended up just smoking some cigars and drinking some beer till like 4 a.m. like reminiscing. And he had this thought where he was talking about how he doesn't know if it's on purpose, but he's like, your guys' opening shots are always so kind of summarize the entire season you have. And what he loved about season 3 was like episode 1 starts with like pretty much the entire, to me it's like I love season 1, but it kind of hinges around kind of like one basic concept, a lot of it, which is like the juxtaposition between Brian in video games and like Brian in real life, and like how he has to survive between those two. Like a lot of the jokes in that show are all about that sort of like first level joke of the concept. And it's like, here's people in action, and then you hard cut to Brian on a bike, he's a normal kid. And like that's the opening of the show, and that's pretty much what the show's about, like the whole season. And season 2, he was like, you know, you have your set, and we kind of show off, it's like you guys were like, we're a little bit bigger now, and here's the 3 characters, and that's what the season's about. And it's about them as friends. And he's like, and the season 3 opening is like
after the crazy cold open.
Yeah, after obviously the cold opens. He's like, in the season 3 opening, he's like, season 3 is like about VGHS, and like it's about high school. And I don't want to say what the opening shot is, but it's like, you know, it's like a big shot, and it's like that's what this is about. And it also ends in a way, which you remember, like where that shot ends. It's like that's the whole MO of this season, which is like kind of make the audience feel one way and like feel like they kind of understand where the scene's going, and then just emotional gut punch
right
at the
in
end.
The feels.
Yeah, emotional gut punch at the end of it. And we do that pretty much consistently throughout the season. So. Hopefully it works. And if it does, then I'll just be most excited to see people's reactions to it. So
also, last thing, keep your eyes out for Jake's little sister.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jake's little sister.
I'm so excited.
Frankly, the best cameo of the whole show. Kills it. You weren't there when we shot it, were you?
I was an extra in the background for some of it.
She's incredible.
Yeah, I'm really.
She has a scene with
she
Jenny.
loved doing it too.
Yeah,
That's great.
You should.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah.
Politest girl on the planet. Wouldn't tell me anything mean about Jake. She actually said Jake was perfect, and said that he's the best older brother around. And she didn't even want to spit gum out in the scene because she couldn't even understand why anybody would want to spit gum. Because she's just so polite and a good person.
That's awesome.
So she was adorable, and that scene is really, really funny. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. Look out for Lucy.
Well, boom. There you have it, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it, especially on your day off. And I know you guys are always busy doing anything and everything.
Doing whatever we do.
Jeez. But for Matt Arnold, Jake Andrews, Will Campos, I'm Benji Dolly, and thanks for stopping by.
Boom. POB.
Boom. Bye.
Point blue.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I take it back. We're not done yet. Want to thank Alex Reeves and Point of Blue Studios. Thank you, guys.
Benji,
everybody go check out Alex's kicks to Indiegogo.
Clarion Falls.
A link is going to appear right here for the Indiegogo for Clarion Falls. Alex Reeves and his fiancée, Nicole Weiland, who plays Moriarty on the show, are putting together an indie movie. It's going to be fucking incredible. Get in on it. Also, as long as we're plugging it, if you are a musician in the LA area who wants $500 for a shitload of studio time in this bomb-ass studio where you're hearing all of this great audio being mixed, Alex has got the deal of the century on that Indiegogo, so go check it out. It's like $500 gets you like 10 hours of studio time. It's awesome. Go donate. Boom.
While we're plugging, also, I just recently got into Magic the Gathering, and if you have a lot of old cards you don't want anymore, and will just give it to me for free, tweet me at
tweet me at fuck you, Matt. Right here. Fuck you, Matt Arnold.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good one, everyone.